Welcome to a new tutorial for a bracelet made with bicones and seed beads. If you want to learn how to bead this beautiful bracelet, just keep watching. Today I want to share with you a method, a technique that I think I haven't seen before, and I have discovered it while creating other projects. And today I show you how to use that technique to create these lovely bracelets in a very thin width, but then I will show you how to make them in a wider width. The materials we can use are the bicones in different sizes. For this small one, I have used 3mm bicones with 11/0 seed beads. And for this one, I have used 6mm bicones, 11/0 seed beads, and here for the bead that goes in the middle, I have used a slightly larger one, so it allows the bicones to sit nicely here, which is 10 or even 9. Anyway, it has to be bigger than the 11/0. For this project, I have decided to show you how to attach a toggle clasp, because obviously they are much cheaper than the usual magnetic ones that I use. So for our clasp, we will need a toggle clasp, which comes in 2 parts. Then we need 2 jump rings that are closed, and 3 normal jump rings. Why 3? Because when we attach the clasp, we will need on the side with the bar 2 of the jump rings to allow an easy fastening when the bracelet is worn. You need some extra space to put the bar through the loop of the clasp. Okay. Obviously, it would be very helpful to have some jewelry pliers, our usual Nymo thread, and the beading needle. For today's tutorial, I'm going to use 6mm bicones, then some 10 or even maybe 9 might be this one, 9/0 seed beads and the 11/0 seed beads. This will go in the middle and this will go on the sides. Before we start our project, we need to do some preparations. So let's first measure the wrist and find out how big, how long has to be our bracelet. So for me is 15 6 inches. Now let's prepare and see how much of that circumference is going to be covered by the clasp. So as we were saying, we have one jump ring that is attached to one side, the side with the loop, and then that loop, that jump ring, is attached to the ring that is closed. Here we have one side. For the other side we have the jump ring that is attached first to the closed ring. We pick up the other jump ring and we attach it on one side to the jump ring, on the other side to the loop of the bar side of the clasp. Okay, so this is one side. The second side, we connect them together, and with them flat on our mat or board, we check how much they cover. So this will cover 1.5 inches, this specific 1.5 inches or 3.5 centimeters. This means that when we do our beading, so this part of the beading will be, in this particular case, the length, which is 15, minus the length of the clasp, which is 3.5 in centimeters or 1.5 in inches, and this leaves us 11.5 centimeters for the length of the bracelet. And now I have to tell you this: if we are using small beads, we are going to bead exactly 11.5 centimeters. If our beads are bigger, we are going to actually add at least 0.5 centimeter extra to the length because of the size of the bead. They will actually, when worn around, they will make the length smaller. So if I am going to use small beads, 3 or 4 millimeters ones, I will have the length of the area that the length of the bracelet, the length minus the required length minus the clasp. If we are using 6 millimeter, for instance, or even bigger, we are going to have the required length minus the length of the clasp, and we add 0.5 centimeter. Okay, so if I'm going to use in our tutorial the 6 millimeter ones, for the length I need for 15 centimeters or 6 inches, I will bead 11.5 plus 0.5, so 12 centimeters, which in inches is 4 3/4. have the basic unit that we are going to repeat for the length of our bracelet. So this unit, we will start from the 11-0, go through the bicone and the middle bead, bicone, and again 11-0, and then we go back and reinforce, especially having big bicones. This reinforcement, I do it in the same time while I prepare the design, I'm working on the design. So then we have the thread coming out of this middle bead, then we add in one step this side, then the other side of the flower, let's call it, and then reinforce, and then we continue with adding bicone, middle bead, bicone, with the connections on these seed beads, and then using the middle bead as a connector, we add in 2 steps the other branches of the flower. So let's start by picking up the first unit, and this is seed bead, bicone, the middle bead, bicone, seed bead. We go back through the bicone, the middle bead, bicone, seed bead, and then skipping the seed bead, go back through the same unit again. I would reinforce by going back once more. And here we have our first half of the flower finished. Because we usually work by adding the clasp as we go, with the thread coming out of one of the external 11-0s, we pick up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I think this could be enough. So this would be the final position. 7, I would add another one, 8. Then we go through the closed ring, and then we reinforce. And for safety, I would go once more around the clasp loop. Okay, and having the clasp attached, we can continue with our design. We make sure that our thread goes out the middle bead. Now let's continue our design. So with the thread coming out, we pick up a bicone and 1/11, drop the bicone and the 11/0, skip the 11/0, go through the bicone and down through the middle bead, and now we make the other branch of the flower. Pick up bicone, seed bead, drop the bicone and the seed bead, skip the seed bead, go through the bicone, up the middle bead. Okay, we make sure that the thread is nicely sitting, and in this step we do the reinforcement by going through the same thread path up and down again. Okay, and we make sure that the thread comes out the seed bead, the 11/0. Now let's continue with our repeating sequence of the design. We pick up one bicone, one middle seed bead, one bicone, and we connect to the other seed bead on the side. We connect to the other seed bead and reinforce. So we go back down, through the seed bead, and now we move the thread out the middle bead. Now we create the top branch by picking up seed bead, bicone and a seed bead. Skip the seed bead, go through the bicone and the middle bead, and then the last branch. Pick up the bicone, the seed bead, skip the bicone, go back up, and now we also reinforce. And this is the sequence that we repeat until we have the required length, in this case with the 6mm bicones, 12 centimeters or 4.5 inches. Let's make one more unit together. So bicone, middle bead, bicone, connect with the other 11/0 on the side, reinforce, and with the thread coming out the middle bead, we pick up bicone 11/0 and create the top branch of the flower. Skip the 11/0, go through the bicone and the middle bead. The last bicone 11/0, skip 11/0, go through the bicone and the mid bead and reinforce. And move the thread through the edge 11/0. And this is how we make our bracelet. Now let's assume that this would be the required length, and I just want to show you how we attach the other side of our clasp. So we pick up 8, I think 8 we had, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. We go through the closed jump ring, and now around the final sequence a few more times and just reinforce this loop. I would reinforce it at least 3-4 times. And we do it by going around the bicone, mid bead, bicone, when you are happy, you just move the thread down through the bracelet. Okay, if you want, and it would be good, the original tail to weave in the work. And now I'll show you how you can see. It's very easy to fasten this clasp if we have that extra jump ring there. If for any reasons the size of the bracelet is shorter, let's say with a tiny amount of length, you can obviously add another jump ring here at the end of the clasp, and will give you the length that you need. I hope you like today's bracelet. I think that the method is very fast, and I'll show you in a future tutorial how to make a wider bracelet using the same technique, just slightly modified. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and see you with our next tutorial. Ciao, ciao.